So today, lads, Stephanie White was on Sue Bird's podcast, and we're going to be reacting to a lot of clips. So this is obviously we found all of these from this Twitter page, and yeah, obviously it is the Sue Bird podcast, which is quite big. Which, I mean, it's a weird one. It's like the clips get quite big, depending on who they have on it. It's quite big, but in terms of like overall views, it's probably not as big as you maybe would probably expect it to be. But yeah. So anyway, let's take a listen, and this is her saying how important it was to establish a relationship between Caitiln as a coach because she's the centerpiece of everything we do. Let's take a listen.
Like forge that relationship with her for all the reasons.
I mean, really important. I'd had just a little bit of a relationship with Caitiln from calling her games a number of times, when she was in college, but it was very important. Look, she's obviously the centerpiece of everything that we do. And most important.
At least that was said, because I think a lot of the time, not even a lot of the time, she has said it herself. It's not like people are making this up, but she has said it herself, basically, like we're building around Kelsey Mitchell. She is a big reason why people believe this team is solely being built around Kelsey Mitchell, because as much as anything, she said it. So at least she's saying Caitlin's the centerpiece of what we're doing.
Importantly for me was just connecting and building trust. I don't know how she does what she does and handles it so gracefully. I'm not sure, myself as a 23-year-old would have been able to handle it the way that she does and still perform at the elite level that she's able to perform, with and at. So building trust, getting to know her, I'm a firm believer that you have to coach and challenge your best players. And for me to be able to do that, I needed to earn her trust, and I need to be honest. Like, I'm a very honest, transparent coach. Like you're going to know, what I'm thinking or where I'm coming from. And if you don't, and you certainly want to ask, but I'm going to be honest, and I think that I certainly appreciate that about her. And I'm also the same kind of psycho that she is in terms of like competitiveness. Now it comes out in different ways. But we both just really want to win, and we want to set ourselves and our teammates up for success.
I mean, she answered that well. And in fairness, like, Stephanie White always speaks well. And I do think there is a mutual respect there between the two of them. And realistically, I think until it's proven that it will not work, Caitlin Clark will want Stephanie White as her coach. Definitely more so than Christy Sides. If we're being completely honest here. Like, Christy Sides was not the greatest as far as coaches were concerned. But yeah, so let's go and take a listen to the difference between coaching a young fever team versus a more veteran team.
It's like going from a veteran team to now this like young core. You definitely add vets, but what was that? Like, what was your approach, or how was your approach different when you got to the Fever last year?
Well, we had a lot more practice time. I can tell you that.
Okay.
If instead of it being those little 40-minute quick sessions, a lot more practice time. Not just were they young. No, you can get through a lot more quickly.
Oh, okay.
No. You can get through a lot more.
It was like, I only wanted to go for 40 minutes when I was 40.
No, that's ideal. That 45 minutes to an hour is ideal. With young players, you're having to repeat things a lot. Right. And there's oftentimes a lot of slippage from one day to the next. Like, it's not always about building. It's hey, we just did this yesterday, we have to do this again. Or if we want to play, a certain defense.
I mean, she's not wrong. Obviously, coaching young players is, as someone who, as a coach, has coached quite a young team, and as someone who's been kind of on a more veteran team and being kind of the has been a young player on a veteran team and has also been a veteran on a young team. It's very different being in the position where you are kind of the young player they have to repeat things for, and vets are on you. And then when you're a vet on a young player, you're standing there like, how the fuck are they not getting this? But I see two different types of coaching.
A certain, like, we want to play a horn set a certain way. Like, this is our base way we're going to play it. We shouldn't have to go over that and shoot around every single day. Just our adjustments, right? Well, with a young team, sometimes you do. So a lot more time in that. It was also a team in Indiana that had been in the bottom of the league in defense. And so we spent a lot of time just on defensive expectations, defensive principles, defensive dynamics. And we didn't have to do that in Connecticut. I mean, that was a team that had always been really good defensively. Of course, when AT sets the tone, so we had to spend a lot of time, number one, teaching the basics of how we wanted to play on both ends of the floor.
I mean, in fairness, Christy Sides' idea of defense was get stops. Like, in fairness, like, she did not. Christy Sides is the worst. She kept saying, I'm a defensive coach. I kid you not, the defense was put Christy Wallace on your team's best player. That was their defense.
Floor, but in particular on the defensive end, two, with some of the regression, just re-emphasizing and drilling some things like, we could get away with in Connecticut a drill that covered 4 things at once. With young players, you can't do that yet. Now, my hope is that we're going to eventually get there. But certainly that, and there's no substitute for experience. And this is a group that, while they had some experience, they hadn't been there yet. They hadn't been there yet. And so understanding what it takes on a daily basis, there are some games that we lost early in the season and even late in the season that you shouldn't lose. That's the difference in whether you are hosting or whether you're going on the road.
I mean, they were barely over 500. They were like 10 games off hosting.
Right. Which is then the difference in playing game 5 in your home arena and playing game 5 in an away arena. And so
being the 6th seed versus being the 2nd seed, like there was never a scenario where the Fever were going to finish out of the Aces last season. There just wasn't. Even a healthy Caitlin Clark, I'm not sure they get a tops 2 seed with a healthy Caitlin Clark.
So you have to learn those things. You have to understand the level that it takes every single day. I think, as coaches, it demanded more from us in terms of our energy, in terms of our ability to keep them at a certain level, in terms of our discipline to maintaining detail and not letting the slippage occur as much.
And obviously what she learned about the core right here. Let's take a listen.
What'd you learn about those 3 that maybe you didn't realize from either covering them in college or coaching against them?
I think number one, just, with Kelsey's like just a pro's pro. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's so low maintenance. She just wants to play. Like, she reminds me of some of those guys back in the day who would just go to the park and just try to play pickup games. Yeah. Like, that's her. She just wants to play. She wants to know that you care about her. She wants you to be.
I think everybody knows that Kelsey Mitchell's an absolute hooper. She is just a hooper. By definition, she's a hooper.
Be honest with her. And at the end of the day, she's low maintenance, and you just have to put her in positions to be successful. And I was so excited about the opportunity to just see what we could do and how we could make her life easier, because she really is the one who had been through the trenches with this franchise. Yeah. You think about when Tamika left and retired, it just the franchise went through a lot, and Kelsey's been the constant, and she deserved the opportunity to be a part of the successful years of the Indiana Fever. And so I was really happy with that for her about that. With AB, I learned how high of an IQ player she is, how great of a facilitator she is.
Yeah, I think how did it take her coaching Aaliyah Boston to learn how good a facilitator she was? In her defense, Christy Sides was the player who started using AB as the hub. Christy Sides post Olympic break was the player that turned AB into what AB is now. Like, it was Sides, not Stephanie White. Like, post Olympic Aaliyah Boston was when people started calling her female Jokic.
She could be almost like a point forward. I didn't get that watching her play in college. I didn't get that, in her first couple of years.
How? You literally played against her. You literally played against her in the playoffs. Like, how did you scout this team so well and not realize that about Aaliyah Boston? Aaliyah Boston was elite. She was always an elite passer. She was an elite hub. Like, in fairness to Christy Sides, whether it was Sides or whether it was the players just taking over and coaching themselves, that was post-Olympic Aaliyah Boston. She was the hub.
In the W, but she is so smart on the floor. She understands the game. She puts a lot of pressure on herself. she's a perfectionist, as a lot of elite athletes are. But we were able to utilize her in a different way because of how quickly we were able to recognize just her IQ and her ability to pass and facilitate. And when Caitlin wasn't on the floor, she had to be a point guard for us.
Yeah.
So love that about her and her ability now to continue to stretch and grow. And with Caitlin, she's a hard worker because of what she's been able to accomplish. But until you see that there's no wasted, movements, no wasted reps, no wasted anything, you just have such a level of respect for how she goes about her work every day. And understanding the spotlight that she's on, understanding the weight that she carries because of who she is. And I've said this before, like she's literally like Taylor Swift 2.0. And that somehow she's able to compartmentalize and come to the gym, get everything that she has to get done. She's off doing everything all the time, but when she's there, she's working. I have such great, and yes. And she's an elite mind. She sees things 2 or 3 passes ahead as well. And so it's just, they've all and have been just a joy to work.
In fairness, Stephanie White, like, she speaks really well. Like, I think nobody's going to question that. Stephanie White speaks extremely well. And it's just the hope that Stephanie White figures out how to get the best out of the 3. That is the hope. Because Stephanie White got the best. The problem was that there was never a stage last year where they looked like post-Olympic fever from the year before, where all 3 of Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell were hooping. There were a lot of games where Aaliyah and Kelsey hooped. There were a lot of games when Caitlin and Aaliyah hooped. There were very few games last year when they were all healthy that all 3 of them played well. Or even to whatever health Caitlin Clark was in. But there was very, very few. There were very, very few times where all 3 of them played well. So anyway, that is the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.